Hi guys, it's me again. So I have a pretty informal setup today. Not going to do the whole big lights and background and everything, so I apologize if things are very casual back here. It's just my life. Today I'm going to talk about propagating a Monstera Peru. Monstera Peru actually isn't its official name. It doesn't actually have an official name, which is kind of strange, but everybody knows it as the Monstera Peru. I believe it's also called the carcinogeniana. I'll put it down here. But propagating this thing is not for the novice. They can be quite challenging. I'm just going to let you know what I did to help me get some success. I do have a yellowing leaf. This is actually the original leaf from the cutting, and I have been propagating this for a very long time. I would say it's been at least a year. And this leaf is just kind of having its last life right now, but I do have significant new growth if it wants to focus on it. It's pretty nice, healthy new leaves coming out. But I received this cutting as a part of a promotion when I bought another plant from one of my favorite plant shops, Kim Thai Garden in Chinatown, Los Angeles. And it's taken me a long time for it to get it here, but I got it here. So anyways, cut to the next scene. All right, pulling the hair back because I hate it when my hair is in my face when I'm working. I keep looking off to the side, I'm so sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to top view so you can see what I'm doing as I'm doing it. Alright, so when I received this cutting, I did receive it as a 2-leaf cutting that had 2 nodes on it. The first one actually had already fallen off, and I was left with the second one. But what I had done is taken the cutting and actually wrapped sphagnum moss all around the nodes, and then I placed it in this tiny dish. I didn't want anything too deep because I didn't want it to retain tons of water and for it to sit in water because I knew it would rot. So I had a very shallow dish. I think this used to be a candle holder, and put sphagnum and a couple pieces of leca just to help with some aeration. And then I put it inside of a terrarium. Now this is a very basic terrarium that I had gotten at IKEA, and I had put that inside here with the cover over it. Pretty much left it in here for the past year. I would occasionally open it, let it air out a little bit, add water if I needed to, make sure it wouldn't get moldy. I would probably take it out of the glass maybe once every 2 weeks. I didn't really do it that often because there wouldn't be a ton of water in here. I really just wanted to retain the moisture that was already in it. But once I started to see new growth, I would eventually start taking the lid of the terrarium off more frequently or for longer periods of time, because at that point I wanted to be able to acclimate it to my room temperature and my room humidity, and I didn't want it to be solely a terrarium plant. So I eventually gradually let it do its thing. Now, a lot of people struggle with propagating Monstera Peru because the cuttings can be very temperamental. They do rot very easily. The biggest problem people have seen is that they don't grow or they don't take or they don't root. I'm not scientifically sure why this is. I'm guessing the plant probably does not naturally have a lot of the growth hormone in it. You can supplement a rooting hormone or a growth hormone in with the water that you put in the sphagnum moss, just to help encourage it to grow. I'll be honest with you, I can't remember if I did that. I might have done it the very first time I put it in here, but then I never followed up with adding any more, but that might be a good idea. These guys don't really like to take off on their own too much. They're not that friendly for propagating, at least in my experience. But as you can see, leaving it in the terrarium, let the aerial roots start to grow out because of the moisture, and they're so fuzzy and so cute. They look like little animal legs. So that was how I propagated my Monstera. Give yourself a lot of time in propagating these because they are very slow rooters. And as you can see, this is how much growth I've gotten since summer 2020, or it might have been spring 2021. Oh my goodness. And this is how much growth I got. But I will notice and will comment on once you finally see some significant roots, the plant will eventually start taking off and you will start to see new growth on the plant much more significantly than when you first put it in here. So give yourself a lot of time to get those roots. Once you have the roots, you'll start seeing more plant and the plant will actually grow quite quickly. But today what I'm going to do is actually pot this. I'm going to put together my medium right now so you can see what I'm using and how I'm going to transition from this sphagnum moss to an actual potting medium. Now the medium I'm using, I'm going to not use a typical aeroid mixture because right now the roots are very accustomed, Right now the roots are very accustomed to something extremely high water retaining. I do not want to shock them by going straight into a very dry arid mix or something that drains so quickly because they're simply not used to that. They didn't grow into that. So I'm going to use a very water retaining material. I'm actually going to leave a lot of the original sphagnum moss in with this. Okay, I am going to add about 2 scoops of bark chips because I do eventually want the roots to acclimate to an aeroid mix. So I'm going to add a few of these. They are water retaining, although they don't hold a ton of water, but they will help with the drainage and the moisture control. Now this is a strict peat mix, cacti mix, and the bark chips. I'm going to stir this all up. So as you can see, this is still a very water retaining mix, although with the added cacti blend and the orchid bark, you will see that this does help add some drainage. So I'm going to go ahead and remove my cutting from my sphagnum moss, and it has a lot of moisture in it. I just watered it not too long ago, so that might be why. But you can see there's some really good solid roots on here. This is what you want to see when you propagate your plants before you plant them. You want to see some good roots. I am not going to pull them apart. The only time you would really want to pull them apart is if they're bunched up together and you don't feel that they're going to spread, but you can see some root tips coming here. These will actually be able to fan out quite nicely, and I want them to be quite comfortable. I don't know why I say the things I say sometimes. I'm going to just put a few inches of soil at the bottom. I'm going to very gently take off some of the surface sphagnum that is not attached to any roots, if you can kind of see. And I'm going to let them fall into the nursery pot. Now, some of this is attached to some of the surface aerial roots, so I do not want to pull any of that off. I just want any of the loose pieces. And you should get kind of a loose but connected chunk here, and that is just going to go directly into the pot. Now I'm going to add some more mixture on top of that with a little bit of a angle down of my plant, because if possible, if the plant continues to grow, I would love for the aerial roots to actually grow into a pot. But that might be wishful thinking, so we're going to just kind of fill in some of the surface here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take my plant and I'm going to give it a little water. I'm going to hold it over this cover pot that is not clean, and I wouldn't give it a full water, but I do want it to kind of fill in some of the air pockets, so just enough for it to wet the new medium and let it kind of settle in. So not too much water is coming out here. And I'm going to leave it in this cover pot and we'll see how this grows. Now I am going to put this fairly close to my humidifier because it's so used to being in a terrarium. It's used to a very high humidity, so I'm going to expose it to as much room humidity as I can. And then I'll gradually move it away as it starts to acclimate. And eventually this plant can tolerate fairly medium to low levels of humidity because they're fairly thick leaves. but I don't want to shock it. I'm going to let it happen very naturally and acclimate it. And over a few months' time, it should be able to go anywhere in my living room. So that's it, guys. I planted my Monstera Peru, so let's see how this does. Hopefully it takes and I didn't just kill it. This was a plant I was really excited about getting, and the fact that it actually didn't die on me or rot, I'm quite excited about it. So hopefully we will see a very large Monstera Peru in the future. Tell me about your Monstera Peru propagation history. Have you had success? Has it been a challenge? Tell me what you did, what worked. I'm sure there are some really great examples out there and things that you guys have done that has been really great. That's what worked for me. So, all right, guys, on a personal note, I actually have an announcement that I have not announced on here. Anyways, my husband and I are expecting our second child. That is probably why you haven't seen much of me. I have been quite a bit under the weather, but I'm now 6 months along, and May we should be seeing our second little girl. So we're pretty excited. As the plants grow, so does our family. Thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate you being here and sticking it out. We'll see you guys soon. Bye.